Hi everyone, I am Özge and these are my friends Derya, Büşra, Simge and Nurşen. In this video, we will talk about wedding traditions in Turkey. Like the other societies, Turkish people have their own unique customs like henna night or fetching the bride. If you wanna get married in Turkey, you have to complete 6 different stages. These stages are asking for the girl's hand in marriage, agreement to marry, engagement, night of henna, fetching the bride, and the wedding night. Let's view them one by one. After two people decide to get married, they talk with their parents about it, and two families meet each other. Bride's family give a date to groom's family to come their house and ask for the girl's hand in marriage. Groom, his family, and his close relatives go to bride's house with a bouquet of flowers and chocolate. As flower, the groom mostly choose red rose because the red rose is the symbol of the love. After some chit-chat, the bride make Turkish coffee for guests. She adds some salt to groom's coffee and he should drink it without any hesitate. If he hesitates, it means he doesn't deserve the bride. But of course, it's not a real thing, it's just a custom. While coffee is drinking, father of groom asks the bride from her parents. He says, with order of God and the words of prophet, we ask your daughter for our son. And bride's father responds his words by saying, our children saw and love each other. If they want to marry, we can only support them. After these words, bride and groom kiss each other's parents' hands, and two family appoint a new date for agreement to marry. Now let's hear the Büşra.
Okay, thank you, Özge. Agreement to marry or plight. In some regions of Turkey, agreement to marry is also called small engagement ceremony. Dessert brought by prospective bridegroom family is distributed to guests immediately after agreement by both parties to marry their children. Even today, in some regions, the prospective bridegroom is not present at the time of the ceremony. According to the attitude of the prospective bride's father, the bridegroom, who is present in the bride's home, and the prospective bride both kiss the hands of the elder guests. Thus, the ceremony held for agreement to marry is completed. And the other step is engagement. The step after the ceremony for agreement to marry is engagement. The engagement ceremony is held in the bride's home and the cost of the ceremony in some regions are borne by the bridegroom family, but many times by the bride's family. After designating the date for engagement ceremony, an invitation called invitation to neighbors is made. Guests who gather together on the day of engagement in the bridegroom home go to the bride's home. In the traditional sections of the community, women and men separated in the bride's home and after having lunch, jewelry called takı is given to the bride, who is dressed in special engagement dress given to her by her mother, in-law and relatives of the bridegroom. In some areas, the bridegroom does not come to the bride's home. In this case, engagement ring is worn by the bride, whereas woman coming from the bridegroom's home. In an engagement ceremony, where the bridegroom is present, rings worn by the bride and bridegroom are placed by an old man on ring fingers of their right hands with accompaniment of standard words and wishes. In many engagement ceremonies today, the ceremonies become more elaborated and modern, where wedding halls are rented and men and women sit together. Music, mostly live, is played and the engagement is celebrated by family and friends of the prospective bride and groom. No definite rule is imposed for the length of the engagement. Rather, it depends upon agreement by both sides. While it is considered natural that engaged couples may meet each other in more modern communities, in traditional rural communities such meetings are allowed only through the permission of the parents, and usually a family member accompanies the couple. Breaking of an engagement is considered a serious matter and is frowned upon in traditional circles. If the party who broke off the engagement is the girl, all jewelry that she received must be returned to the former fiancé. If the man broke off the engagement, usually his former fiancé keeps the presents. Let's see Nurşen.
Thank you, Bishra. After the engagement, the next stage is henna night, a traditional version and perhaps precursor of the bachelorette party. The night before the wedding is set aside for the bride to spend her last night at her family's home in the company of women of all who are close to the couple's family. This ceremony gets its name Kına Gecesi, which means henna night, from the fact that usually the hands of the bride is adorned with henna. The bridegroom's female relatives to attend this event and are hosted in the bride's home. Usually dry henna brought by the bridegroom family is broken to pieces in a silver or copper vessel by a woman whose father and mother is still alive and not experienced otherwise separation. After preparing the bride with the traditional dress, which is bindallı and a veil ornamented with red flake is replaced over her head, and she is brought amidst the guests, accompanied by songs and hymns about henna. Hands of the bride are dyed with henna. The bridegroom's side is under the obligation to put money in the hand of brides. Dyeing ceremony of henna is different according to regions. The henna so dyed has such names and types as iplik kınası, henna for yarn, sıvama, smearing, and kuş gözü, bird eye. This ceremony, which itself can be a sad occasion, where relatives of the bride, particularly her mother, laments the departure of the daughter from her parents' home, is followed by joyous celebration, song, and dance. After the guests leave, it is not unusual for the closest friends of the bride to remain with her until the next morning, spending their last single hours together. In some regions, a similar ceremony is held for the bridegroom by his friends at his home. Now it's your turn, Simge.
Thanks, Nurşen. After henna night, the next day is the day of to fetch the bride. Everybody is invited to this ceremonial procession from the home of the bride to the home of the groom. Guests go to fetch the bride and food if not far, or by cars if too far to go. In some regions, the bridegroom has not been allowed to accompany the bridal procession. The procession is followed by drums and pipes. In some regions, the bride is prepared by elderly woman, we call her yenge in Turkey, who help and attend to the bride. But generally, today, the preparations for the bride are done at a beauty salon. Then the bride joins the procession on her way to the groom's house. Before leaving her home, a belt, mostly it's a red ribbon, is tied around the bride's waist by her brother or a close relative, and then the bride says goodbye to those who stay at home. To lighten things up, the doorway is sometimes blocked by a male relative of the bride, or a younger brother sits on the wooden chest that carries the bride's dowry, as to not allowing the bride to leave. A tip by the groom's family solved this final hurdle, and the bride leaves her parents' home. After traveling around the village, accompanied with drums and pipes, the wedding procession arrives at the home of the groom. The bride and procession is met by the mother-in-law at the front door, who welcomes the bride with a gift. Then the groom takes her by the arm and leads her inside the house. After a while, the groom is taken out by his friends until later in the night. While away, he is shaved, bathed, and dressed and taken to the mosque for the late night prayer. Then he is returned home. The religious marriage ceremony is performed for the bride and the groom, who had returned to home, accompanied by the preacher of the local mosque. Now, Darya will continue with wedding ceremony.
Thank you, Simge. The last stage is wedding. Turkish weddings are a big affair with hundreds of invents handed out to family and friends. Whether done on a budget or with unlimited expenses, Turks love to celebrate the good times and also invite people they have only just met, including foreigners traveling in the country. A Turkish wedding differs across the country according to regional traditional and the bride's and groom's upbringing. Couples from remote village districts can spend up to 3 days preparing and celebrating the wedding. The small size of the village means it's a community celebration, often taking place in the village square. Local women make the food for the guests, and men play traditional musical instruments for everyone to dance together into the night. Otherwise, couples from large towns or cities often have a salon wedding. For these types of Turkish weddings, the legal ceremony happens on the same night as the reception. Food and refreshments are served, and after the official ceremony, cake cutting and receiving the gifts, the band plays music. As well as the white wedding dress, another similarity between most brides is the red belt. In the past, the absence of the red belt would result in local gossip, but in modern towns and cities, it's the choice of the bride as to whether she wants to wear it. This Turkish wedding tradition has the same meaning as throwing the bouquet. The bride friends write her name on the sole of her shoes. Whosever name drops off by the end of the night, they will get married. Generally, this works for everyone if they don't use permanent marker. At the end of the wedding, guests either give gold coins or jewelry or pin money to the fabric. The couple leave the next day for their honeymoon. This was the 6 stages of the marriage. Thank you for listening us.